Okay.
All right, we are live. I am going to let Andrew and one of my favorite people in the world, Uncle Frasier, take this over. You guys have fun, and I'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Sam.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Excited to have Roland on. I've met Roland through Mastermind Closing Table and War Room as well, and then Traffic and Conversion. And then if you don't listen to Business Lunch podcast, you're definitely missing out. Some great podcasts in there. I'm excited to go over what we're going to go over right now, some pivots, some strategies, and then a little bit of a history and what to look at in the marketplace. Roland's a real smart guy, dissects it really well. So with no further ado, Roland, I'm going to pass it off to you, and feel free to bounce any questions off of me, and I'll be watching the message boards to see what everybody says.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Andrew. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to my section of the quarantine convention. I never thought that I would be at a convention that was about quarantines. And so I'm going to tell you all about quarantines, explain the different types of quarantine. I'm just kidding. I'm going to talk about what you can do during this this voluntary-ish time that you're spending at home away from work, and at least as a physical location, things you can do. The three things that I want to cover are, first, the kind of like, what is it going to look like as we go through this? We don't know really how long it is, but what's it look like now, in the middle, and at the end? So I'm going to go through a model that I got from Simon Bowen, who's a really smart guy at modelsmethod.com, who you should all check out. And then I'm going to go through what we are doing with all of our companies as far as how to face this head on, how to address immediate actions, and then plan across 4 different areas: operations, marketing, people, and finance. And then last but not least, I'm going to talk a little bit about some changes and pivots that you might want to make in your audience, in your messaging, in your markets, based on what Harvard Business Review presented in terms of consumer segments and demand change in a recessionary economy. Because we at least have the characteristics of a recession. I don't know that we're in a recession. I don't know this is going to lead to one. I guess a lot of it depends on how long we're unable to operate at full capacity. But during this time, it's like a recessionary bubble. And so what has worked for the last 100 years across, I think Jay Abraham, buddy of mine, said there had been 48 different recessionary periods in our country's history. So this isn't like new. It's just come from a different cause. So without further ado, let me switch to sharing my screen here with you. And I just will walk through these 3 things. So the very first thing is if you look at where we are right now, if we say we're on a horizontal axis today at the end of March 2020, and you look forward 3 years to March 2023, there is going to be a survival line, and we don't know where that is. That line could move up or down this timeline, depending on how long the effects of what's going on last. And a lot of us think it's going to be 90 days to 120 days. I've heard people say it's going to be forever, but the likelihood is that it's going to be somewhere in between 90 days and forever. So let's look out 3 years and just say, on this timeline, we've got a survival line. And if it's half of the period, it's 18 months, then that means that we all have to figure out how to survive that long. If we don't get past the line. If we do, then we do. And the first option is for you to freeze up. And a lot of people I see doing this. They're not talking to their customers. They're afraid that their customers are going to cancel. I've had calls this morning even with people who are saying, I just don't want to talk to them because I know they're going to cancel. And that's the worst thing you can do, right? If you're panicking, you are fear focused. And if you are fear focused and you're frozen right now, then likely you won't, without changing, get past that survival line, wherever it is, because keep in mind, the farther out that survival line goes, the harder it's going to be to stay in business if you're frozen. The second group of people, and the second option that you've got, is to kind of fumble around. And that's the yellow line there. That's if you're indecisive and you're unfocused, I'm up, but now I'm depressed, and I'm excited, and now I'm really just don't know what to do, and we're all screwed. That I've seen too. And so if you're in that manic and depressive kind of cycle, you're going to be very indecisive and unfocused. And at the end of 3 years, you're going to get past the survival line, kind of bumbling your way through. But at the end, you're going to be in pretty much the same place that you are right now. And the other option is to get on the green line. And the green line is you're going to fight this thing. You're going to fight every step of the way towards doing whatever you have to do to get through this. And that's the place that you really want to be. And at the end, I mean, you can trace the line and see, right now, it's until we get past that survival line, it's going to be probably slightly tilting up, unless you're blessed enough to be in one of the businesses that is seeing lots of growth right now. Because there are businesses, I talked to somebody last night who was, their business is up almost double. And that's the fortunate thing about being like Zoom, for example. But it's likely for most people going to be kind of flat till you get to the survival line. And then after the survival line, once this thing ends, the pent up demand is going to be huge. And so this is really the opportunity during this time to position yourself to take advantage of being in the right part of the curve for when demand takes off, because it's going to hockey stick up. And that's going to be something that you do only by being strategic. If you are strategy focused and you're positioning yourself now to take advantage of what's going to happen once this is over, then you're going to be in a really good spot. So the thing to think about is on the left side of this, where we are now, you can see that all three of those lines, the green, the red, and the yellow, are all pretty close together. So there's not a lot of difference that we might be seeing right now between the businesses that won't be here in 90 days or 6 months or a year, the businesses that'll be kind of in the same place 3 years from now, and the businesses that are going to really take off. And as you move along the timeline and get to the survival line, well, all of the people that were red are gone. They didn't survive. They freaked out. They panicked. They were fear-based. They didn't take the right actions, and they're gone. But the people who were indecisive and unfocused, but even, indecisive and unfocused, but didn't just freeze, most of those people are going to still be around. And you can see that there's a line, there's a divergence of the line between the yellow and the green here at the survival line that gets to be pretty pronounced when you get a little bit further and you get to the end of this, and you see as the hockey stick really takes off, even the red people are gone. They've been gone now. The people who are on that yellow line kind of unfocused, they're going to get back to where they were. They're going to be okay. And that's most people. And the people who were strategy focused, who take this head on and go through the next couple exercises I'm going to share with you, and what all the other super smart people in the quarantine convention are sharing, you're going to be so far ahead of everyone else because you positioned now. So how do you do this? How do you position now? Well, we developed a tool for this that I have found to be very helpful. And I'm going to make these slides, which I just finally finished, by the way, this version to be able to hand out. So these will be available to you. I'll get with Sam and Andrew and we'll make them available. But there are 4 key areas that you're going to want to focus on to be on that green line. The first is finance. The second is your people. The third is your ops. And fourth is your marketing. And there are 4 sets of actions that you can take. And so you'll have this worksheet that's blank so you can write down what your specific actions will be. But taking those actions is likely going to be critical to you getting past the survival line and differentiating yourself from that yellow line and green line. So let's go over these in turn. We'll start with finance. The very first thing you need to survive is cash. So you need to think right now about how much cash do I have to sustain me for how long through this challenge. And I know Sam and I went through this exercise, and a lot of other folks in our mastermind went through this exercise with us. And if you're freaking out right now, one of the best things that you can do for most people is to go through a cash analysis and say, how many months with my projected revenue at whatever level is adjusted based on what you've seen, and with my essential expenses, if I take the revenue and subtract the expenses, I look at my shortfall, or maybe you don't have a shortfall. And let's say you have a $10,000 a month shortfall, or I talked to somebody this morning who had a $100,000 a month shortfall. Then you look at your cash that you've got, you divide the cash that you've got by the shortfall. Let's say that you have a $100,000 in cash and you have a $10,000 a month shortfall, then you know that you're good for 10 months. So if the survival line is less than 10 months, you're good if you do nothing, okay? That would be a horrible mistake because there's so much opportunity, and we're going to talk as we go through the model about other things to do. But just in terms of giving you a level of peace of mind, if you've got 10 months, I think you're going to be pretty good. If you've got 90 days, you might still be good. But if you take action, you can extend that runway significantly longer. So the very first thing that you want to do is increase your ability to extend your runway. How do you do that? You want to maximize your credit. So you want to secure as many LOCs, lines of credit, as you can, and you want to reach out to the SBA and get in line for the $50 billion. And I saw in the $2 trillion bill that they think is going to be passed today or tomorrow. I don't know if it has as of this moment, but there was $350 billion earmarked in the United States by Congress for small business. So if that's the case, then daggone it, get in line for this money, because it's in the United States. These new disaster relief loans are at 2% and 3%, and they have 30-year payback periods. Like, you can get a loan on your business now like it was a house. That's crazy. I never seen that before. So you want to get as much cash as you can. And you might say, well, I don't need any cash right now. I'm good. I got 24 months or 18 months, and I know I'm going to be well past the survival line when things turn around. But the thing is that you have no idea what opportunities are going to present themselves, because a lot of people who aren't making it past the survival line are people that you should be buying. They're companies, media properties, assets, equipment, customer lists that you can acquire. And if you've got the money, then you've got the ability to acquire and serve those people, to hire fast when things turn around. So get yourself positioned to have as much credit as possible at your disposal. And there are services that do this. And there may even be a speaker who's talked about this. If you guys want a referral to somebody, I'm happy to refer you. Just message me. But the very first thing you need to do is get credit. Now, there's different kinds of credit here. So let's say that you need immediate cash, that you are panicked. You're living hand to mouth, your business, you just launched some new initiative or outlaid a large amount of cash, and you're kind of freaked out right now because you don't know if you're going to get through 30 days. Then what you want to do is you want to be smart about how you get your credit instantly. You want to go out and apply through a service that does multiple applications at the same time across several credit cards. And you'll be able to get 50 to 150,000, most likely, dollars in cash that you'll then have available. And that'll be available to you within usually about 2 weeks. So that means you'd have multiple credit cards that you could do cash advances against. Is it expensive money? Yes. But is it better to survive with expensive money than die? Pretty sure it is. So immediate cash is credit cards, but go through a service, because if you just went and like applied onesie twosie, or you applied all to all these places at one time, you're not going to be able to do it with the precision that a service will. And you're going to get hard queries against your credit. Your credit score is going to go down. You're going to have a hard time getting more credit. So that's the immediate stopgap. The second thing is look for medium-term financing. So SBA has an SBA 7A, which is an express loan for up to $350,000, typically 30 to 60 days to get that money. And $350,000 poured in on top of the 150 that you got through the credit, or 350 that then pays off the 150 super expensive money with less expensive SBA money, plus you've got 200,000 left, could be a lifesaver for you, right? So think about being strategic about your credit. And then these longer to get loans, they say they're going to expedite them. We'll see. But typically those SBA loans will take 4 to 6 months to get. And you might be saying, well, I mean, if it was 4 to 6 months, I'm kind of done. I'm on the red line. But that's why you want to stagger this. You want to say immediate money, then kind of midterm, and then longer term. Do all of it. Do all of it. The more money you have, the safer you are. The longer your runway is, the longer you'll be able to last. If for some reason this goes unexpectedly long, the people who were smart enough to position themselves to have access to cash are going to be the people that survive. So that's the first thing. The second thing under finance is think about your business right now like a turnaround, because if you want to extend that runway, that how long can I last with the income minus expenses plus credit and cash that I've got, then you want to be thinking kind of like a turnaround. When we go and do a turnaround, the very first thing we do is we'll do a 14-day, day-by-day cash analysis, where we're breaking down exactly what is the expected cash that's coming in, and we'll discount that typically by about 25%. Here, you might want to looking forward, start at a 20% discount, and then move as you get into another, like a full week from now or 2 weeks from now. You might even go up to as much as 50, because we don't know what's going to happen, right? So then you've got a realistic expectation as to the probability of cash inflows day by day for 14 days. Then you go through your expenses. The best way to know what your upcoming expenses are so you don't get surprised is to look at the last 30 days and look at every single charge that has come through on your credit cards. Look at every single charge that has a check has been written for on your bank, and don't be surprised and get hit with like a $3,000, $4,000 recurring thing that you didn't expect. Okay, so that's important. This is all about how do we reduce, how do we minimize the cash outflows to just the essentials. I can't tell you, like once a quarter we go through and we'll find $10,000, $20,000 a month of charges that are recurring from services that we've tried and then didn't like or didn't follow through with, or think we're going to get to but still haven't. Now's the time to cut that. Don't cut the essential things. Don't cut the people that are essential to your business. Don't cut the advisors that are essential to getting you through this. Don't cut the rent that you have to pay as a non-pay, but do consider negotiating all of the expenses that you're outlining. The first step is get rid of all the things that you don't need to have at all. Then you go down to this next one and you say, what are my helpful and necessary expenses? And only keep the helpful and necessary expenses. After you do that 14-day thing, you'll know you'll cut out all the fat, you'll be lean, you'll extend your runway, and then you want to do a 12-week plan. 12 weeks is basically 90 days. So when we're doing turnarounds, 14 days is day by day. And then now we do a 12-week plan going forward past the 14 days. So that's the second thing that you want to do. I mentioned the helpful and necessary expenses. So all of those, you do not want to cut those. You want to keep those going. And one thing that you can think about doing, though, is Todd Herman, who is a friend of mine who wrote a great book on alter egos. It said that he's been asking his essential suppliers for same but more, is what he called it. And I thought this was really smart. He said, I'm telling them I'm going to pay them the same that I have before because they're critical to my company, but I want 50% more from them than they were giving before. And a lot of these suppliers are happy to hear that you're not going to cut them, and they are full of capacity. because a lot of their customers have terminated them. So they have the ability for someone who's still paying them the same to put out more work. So don't be afraid to ask for that. The second thing that you should consider is integrating barter. There are lots of people who have services and products that you might need or want that rather than paying cash for, you could offer them your services in trade. The other thing for your customers, if there are people who want to slow pay or abate or cancel, maybe they have something or even have access through a third party to something that you want that they can get you. So don't forget about, this is like before money, everybody just traded stuff. So think about having barter be one of the things that you integrate into your mix of finance. And then last but not least, think about what can you do to accelerate cash? How can you get more cash in right now? Maybe you can do bundling. Maybe you can offer same but more also. Maybe you can say, hey, if you can continue to pay the same, I can do more. But if you will accelerate your payment, if you'll pay me now for the next 3 months or 6 months of services, I'll give you a discount, or I'll give you more than I would have before. I know I was talking with somebody that is a consultant to the dental practice, the dental trade this morning, and we talked about people who are coming in for emergency things to be able to offer them more if they come to them. So they charge the same amount that they would have before, but they offer upsells or they offer something more. So what can you do to accelerate that cash flow? Then we move to people. So the very first thing you want to think about with your people is it's important to talk with them. It's important. I've done tons of workouts and tons of turnarounds, workouts where I come in and everybody's, mad. The creditors are mad. The customers are mad. And then I'm going to kind of try to get everybody calmed down and make things work. Well, the way you do that is communication. Usually people are scared because they haven't been communicated with. So communicate with your team and let them know what your plan is. Let them know where you stand right now. Be transparent, be authentic, and be honest. And say, this is where we are right now. We are interested in helping you. We want to keep as many people as we can. We've identified that we're going to have to make some changes, which I'll talk about when I get to operations. But be upfront and communicative regularly with them and with everybody, but especially your team. And then delegate to them and empower them with the authority. A lot of them are working remotely right now. Most of them, depending on what business you're in, are going to be working remotely. Well, don't make them keep having to ask you for stuff that they shouldn't have to ask you for, especially if they're dealing with your customers. Give them the power to resolve issues themselves without having to ask. The next step that you want to take is you want to think about with your customers that are at risk need to be communicated with so you get ahead of the cancel. If you're a coach, if you're providing real estate services, anybody that's thinking about canceling a transaction, maybe somebody's was in escrow on a house and they're thinking of canceling that, maybe somebody on a commercial building, maybe leases. You want to get ahead of that, and that's done also through communication. So get on the phone with them or a Zoom face-to-face and run through their numbers and let's see if the panic is really deserved. If the things that they're doing to cancel whatever you are trying to sell them or whatever deal you had in motion, if that's at risk, then just say, hey, I understand you're scared. Let me work with you. Let me be a consultant and help you. And I'm going to walk through your numbers with you. And we're going to see, is this something that makes sense? Okay. And then you become a trusted advisor and you're saying, okay, let's go through the numbers. Well, you might find, they might say all of our business has stopped. You say, okay, has all of it stopped? Let's go through the numbers. Well, one of the people I talked to yesterday had only lost 3% of their business and they were freaking out. They were like, everybody's canceling. It was 3% of their business. Like, okay, well, 97% that's left is pretty good. Let's get you out of freak out mode and into logic mode, and we'll be able to get through this. And then walking through that, we found in one case, somebody that thought that they were going to be out of money almost immediately had 108 months of funds right? And so it wasn't time to cancel, it was time to double down. So that's really important. Get ahead of the cancel. Then with your suppliers, can you defer? Will they allow deferments? Somebody told me a minute ago that they were talking to American Express, and I think it was Michael Burnoff, and that American Express is now deferring payments 90 days and allowing you to continue to charge. I had heard someone say that American Express was deferring payments, but be careful before, because they will freeze your ability to spend. So you want to verify any of this information, right? We verifying from the actual source is very smart. But I know with our lease, we have the money to pay our lease at Digital Marketer, but it's about a $72,000 a monthly payment. And so we just reached out. We had our CFO reach out to everybody because we want to see, how do we preserve cash? How do we extend runway? And the landlord said, yeah, no problem, 30-day deferral. The federal government has given you a deferral until I think July 15th to file and pay your taxes. So don't go sending off money now, but if you're due a refund, file immediately so you can get your refund, right? But whatever you can do to defer, that's suppliers. And then lenders, people who are your creditors already, but not your suppliers, talk about either doubling down. How can I get additional credit? How can I get some additional money on these existing loans that I've got? Or restructure if you're going to have a problem with payments, then restructure now. Say, hey, look, the way things are, I don't believe if this continues, I'm going to be able to make these payments, and I need to deploy money into other resources besides repayment to be able to be in a position to pay you what I owe you. So I'd like to restructure the debt. If you do that, those 4 steps will tremendously help you in extending your runway and keeping your people and serving your customers. So then we get to operations. The very first thing with operations is, if you have a downturn in business right now and you were ever thinking about migrating, if you hate whatever CRM you're using, you're on Salesforce and you can't stand it, you've been dying to move to Infusionsoft or something else, right? You don't like your ESP, your ISP, any of your Ps that you don't like. Now's the time to move. Now's the time to make the migration. And if you are a provider of something that requires a migration, now is the time to say, hey, it's time that you did that, because there's never a better time than, is business slow for you? Yeah, business is slowed down. Now's the best time to migrate. It's going to be the least disruptive time ever for you to be able to do this. So do my service now. Take my consulting for migration now. Buy my new my new SaaS right now today, so that we get this migration done, so that 90 days from now, when things are popping, you won't have time to do this, and we'll have the newer, better system in play. So that's a great time to do that, and a great time to also do new tech deployments. For your employees, your key people, don't let them go. If you can help it, don't let them go. Just change the way that you keep them. Instead of letting them go, consider hour reductions. Instead of letting them go, consider a furlough. So you say, hey, there's a period of no pay, but you're not gone. I'm going to bring you back. Unless you need to terminate them officially so that they can qualify for unemployment. Okay, that would be the exception to the rule. But then have the conversation and say, hey, look, I'm going to terminate you now so that you can go get unemployment, because I don't think I can keep this up for this short period of time while this is going on. But I'm here, and I want, as soon as this is over, I want you to know I want to hire you back. Okay, I'm doing this so that you can get as much compensation for you and your family as possible. The other thing you could do is convert staff and salaried people to performance pay. So how can your payroll person go on performance pay? Find me places to cut. Find me places to save money. I will pay you up to your full compensation that I have been paying you if you can give me savings equal to that amount, okay? Because those savings will help you month after month after month. And with salespeople and other people who are involved in the demand gen or sales or marketing, obviously it's easy to pay those people based on conversions, okay? Then with respect to employee trainings, now is the time for you to do whatever trainings you were going to do. If you were going to have a big offsite to train people on how to do customer service better, now's the time. If you're selling training, now is the time to sell the training and tell people, hey, everybody's kind of doing nothing right now. How about we do that training that you've been wanting to do but didn't have time for? And then last but not least, whatever you're in, now's the time to buy. If you've got, and especially if you know how to do it with no money down, right? But now is the time to buy real estate. Now is the time to buy media. Now is the time to buy assets. Media like websites, people that have your customers. This is the best opportunity in years, right? I know some people who are selling a beach house right now, and they got an offer $250,000 under the listing price. They're probably going to take that, right? So everything's on sale. Warren Buffett said, man, in a recession, the thing I would do is buy durable goods because they all go on sale. If you can buy your durable goods at 25, 30, 50% off, do you realize what the annual return on that is? And if you go forward with the savings at future value over the next 20 years or whatever the useful life of that asset is, it's ridiculous, right? It's ridiculous. So do that. And then we get to marketing. So with marketing, the thing that I want to tell you about last, the third of these three things, is this 4x4 product consumer segment matrix. And I really think there's a lot of opportunity there. So I'm going to go over that with you, but just keep that as a box here. I'm going to go over that with you in a second. And then think about your customer service experience. We run an exercise called the Customer Experience Elevator. If you listen to Masters of Scale with the podcast with Brian Chesky, he talks about how they do this at Airbnb. And if you take the time to go through the exercise of writing the perfect 5-star review that a customer would give you right now, and then saying, what if we made that a 10-star review, and look at the differences of how you could serve your customers better. There's never been a better time for you to serve your customers more. And I think going through an exercise that allows you to see all the areas you can do that would be really, really beneficial to you. With respect to training of your customers or onboarding them, this is the time to implement that onboarding process that you never thought about. If you're in real estate, what do you actually do when you sign up somebody who's listing a property, or you become a buyer's representative? Or if you're onboarding somebody for SaaS, what are you going to do what do you do to have them see how to take advantage of the program and consume it? The more that you can get people to consume your products and services, the better stick you're going to have and the better referral rate you're going to have. So those are two things to definitely think about. And then with existing customers, if you have existing customers who aren't buying your products as much as they used to, consider how can you add virtual services. If you're a restaurant, for example, you could do a virtual cooking class. You could sell them the ingredients to make a meal, and then get them on and then deliver those, and then get everybody on a Zoom or some other format and do a cooking class and say, hey, we're going to make all this stuff together now. And then we're going to have a glass of wine together after. And then, so there's lots of ways to do that. Add consulting. If you are selling products, maybe add consulting. I talked to somebody in a service business that was staffing the construction industry earlier today, and her revenue was down, obviously, because construction sites, most of them are closed. And we talked about her talking with her construction company clients about how, as a consultant, how to rearrange things during this time, how to manage their finances, how to manage their projects, how to manage their remote teams. So there's always opportunity. And then among new customers, consider offering 0% financing. Sell them the thing that you're going to sell them that before they were going to have to pay some amount of money for, but stretch the payments out over time and don't charge them any interest. You can also use coupons to sell. And last but not least, you could use, if it's a luxury item or kind of a treat item, or you sell to the wealthy who aren't as hit by this, then you can take a messaging tact of, hey, it's expensive, but it's worth it. So you have this sheet that you can use to go through each of these 4 things in these 4 critical areas of your business. And if you do this, you'll have runway, you'll have capital, you'll keep your team, and you'll probably be able to find additional business. And when you emerge from this thing, because it is going to end, you'll emerge stronger and positioned to take advantage of every opportunity that exists. And you're going to be on that green strategy position focused part of the curve instead of dead at the fear focused red curve, or kind of in the same place. So the very last thing that I want to talk with you about in the last few minutes that we've got here together is, what are you selling and who are you selling it to? So if you look at this, this is something I took from a Harvard Business Review article about recessionary behavior of consumers across different segments. And at the top here, you can see we're talking about the risk of a sales downturn. So the risk of you declining. And the key you can see, if you're green, we're going to say it's a stable market, probably no change at all. The mixed market, there may be slight changes. And the only one that's really declining is red. And you can see that out of the 16 boxes here, we're only red in 3. And we're absolutely the same in 5. Okay, so if you're panicked about everything's going to hell in a handbasket, at least over the last several recessions, it hasn't. Okay, so the first thing you ask is, what type of product am I selling, or what type of service am I selling right now? You can see in the first leftmost column, these are essentials. So if you're selling essentials, then pretty much everybody has to buy those, like, for example, toilet paper. Or are you selling treats? Are you selling things that people look at and say they're going to treat themselves to this? Now, the reason that that's not red, no matter what type of customer you have, and I'll do the customers next, the reason that that's only yellow in 3 of the blocks and green in another is that no matter where people are, they still want to treat themselves. They still are going to say, man, it's been hard. I deserve that, right? And it just becomes a question. They might really go out of their way to reposition their financial resources or their credit resources to buy something that they perceive as a treat. Postponables are tougher because if you don't need a new water heater right now, but you know that it's kind of time, or that little light is on in your car, or you were thinking about buying a new house or something like that, those are postponable. It's harder there, but there are strategies for dealing with that. We'll talk about those real quick in a minute. And then there's expendables, which are things that people could like take or leave. It's like they really almost like a total impulse purchase type thing. And you can see that the only places that we really got downturn declining markets are in postponables and expendables, but only with 1 or 2 classes of people. So then we get to, what are people thinking right now in the consumer world? What is your target market thinking? Well, some of them are slam on the brakes people. These are the people that are going to be on the red line. They might not be around business-wise later if you're in B2B, but they're freaked out. And so they're going to take different actions than the next group, which is pained but patient. These are people who are suffering. They're like, their income is less. They see, it's going to be a little bit of a ride, but they're patient and they know they can get through it. So they're behaving rationally. These people and slam on the brakes are not. Then you've got the wealthy, which is typically the top, in this case, for purposes of this study, I think it was the top 15% of the population. If you're in the United States and you say we got 400 million people, that means 60 million people are not going to go red at all, no matter even for expendables. And then you've got the live for today crowd, which is a lot of millennials, people that are saying carpe diem, we don't care about this thing. You got to just go for it, and whatever happens, happens. And that is across all age groups, although it is higher in millennial. So you got these 4 groups of people. Now, how are they going to behave? You can see that for essentials, there's really not much that's going to change. So if you look, I don't know if you can read it or not, but basically it says the slam on the brakes people will seek lower cost product and brand substitutes. So you want to think about, what is your product a less expensive substitute for? And then that is your messaging, right? That is your messaging. It's time to convert now. And then across all of these, they're really just either seeking better quality for the same money, or they're seeking discounts, or they're not changing behavior at all. They're just buying the same things they always bought because they can afford it or they think they deserve it. Or they're trying to substitute. So knowing that there's those 4 kinds of things, look at your messaging across that, and then think about if your market is a postponable or an expendable, is it possible to migrate or pivot yourself to either position the product that you're selling or get a different product or service as a treat or essential? Because if you can change your postponable or expendable type product to something that people perceive as essential or as a reward to themselves, then you'll be able to sell more stuff to more people. So I hope that this has been valuable to you. I think that I had 45 minutes. I wasn't sure. And I think I'm coming up on 2 minutes of that. if anybody has any questions that I can answer real quick, Andrew or Sam, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, no, that was great. I really enjoyed that, the breakdown there. I was trying to think of how to change messaging for purchasing a home a treat. So,
well, it is because think about this. Any house that is, you can treat yourself in several ways. And you can treat yourself to the extra bedroom. You know, are you feeling kind of cramped in the quarantine? Right? Houses are on sale right now. Mortgages, the interest rate, the Fed cut the interest rate to 0. Mortgages will never be better. This is the time to treat yourself to space. This is the time to treat yourself to the property that has the pool. This is the time to treat yourself to the better school system. So when they go back to school, they'll be able to do it in a better environment. This is the time to treat yourself to the move to the beach. This is the time. I mean, right? You can absolutely position a home sale as a treat. It doesn't have to be treat yourself to, you know, a house on Lake Como with a wood boat. You know, it's treats can be just little victories, and people deserve the ability to take care of themselves. And so I think you deserve it and treat yourself kind of messaging could be very, very valuable for people that are trying to sell homes right now.
Yeah, no, I love that, because you can easily position it that right now, as far as a discount and especially people with multiple properties that are looking to disposition. So we have one question here that came through earlier on SBA loans from David Martin, and it was, can an SBA loan, can we get an SBA loan if we're not incorporated, just an independent contractor?
Yeah, so the answer is, I believe that the best way to do it is as a corporation, but I am not an SBA loaner person, so I would refer that to somebody like Ty Crandall or Jason Keys or somebody else that's doing those types of loans for folks.
Roland, can you share Ty's info or the best way to reach Ty for people that might be interested?
I can, yeah. Ty is at a company called Credit Suite, and look at me, I'm going to give you his phone number because I think that everybody should do this. They really should. By the way, there is no fee for doing this stuff. They get a payment from the SBA or somebody like that. They don't charge for this. So if you're ever thinking about doing it, now is a great time. Ty's phone number is 727-534-1150. And he is Ty, Ty, at creditsuite.com. That's Credit Suite, SUITE.com. And that's his cell phone. So I would recommend that you don't blow him up with phone calls. Maybe text him if you'd like help, and he can get you set up with somebody. But that's what I would do.
Cool. I have shared that with the note to text.
Awesome.
So, yeah, no, that's great. Oh, and Sam shared it too. You double shared.
Double shared.
Triple shared.
Double rainbow. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I will say there is a lot of outpouring of appreciation on the page right now for the information. Everyone really appreciated it.
Fantastic. And I'll get you the slides. What's the best way for you to get those to folks? Do you have a group now that you could share it in? Or
yeah, we can share it in the quarantine convention. Or text it to Samurai, or if you post it there, we'll leave it up. We won't moderate it. How's that sound?
Okay, sounds great. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Roland. Really appreciate you. Thanks for your time. Mad love. Hopefully I get to see you in the flesh way sooner than later.
I like it. I love it. All right. Thank you.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
Bye.